Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the fourth day of International Conference on Global Parents, Bicycle, Fishing, Environment, Food Safety, Nutrition, Oceans, Biodiversity, Ecosystems, Awareness, Education, Health, Well-being, and Sustainable Development 2024, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 76 years of independence, and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2014, 2015 to 2030, as part of awareness and campaigns, and also on occasion of Global Day of Parents, World Bicycle Day, International Day of Innocent Children's Victims of Aggression, World Environment Day, International Day for the fight against illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, Russian Language Day, World Food Safety Day, and World Ocean Day 2024. And many more international, national, and regional commemorations and celebrations. Before we start today's sessions, let's take blessings from the Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's sessions. Today, we are commemorating International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression. Every day, children are under attack. Every day, children living in wars across the globe are facing unpredictable horrors. They are not safe sleeping in their homes or playing outside, learning in schools, or seeking medical care in hospitals. From killing and maiming, abduction, and sexual violence, to attacks on education and health facilities, and the denial of the humanitarian assistance that they desperately need, children are being caught in the crosshairs of warring parties at a staggering scale. The UN Secretary General Annual Report on Children and Armed Conflicts highlights that in 2022 alone, over 8,630 children were killed or maimed, a 5% increase compared to 2021. The use of explosive ordnance and including explosive remnants of war, improvised explosive devices, and landmines was responsible for 25% of the killing and maiming of children. 7,622 children were recruited or used. 85% of children recruited and used were boys. Factors such as sex, age, disability, ethnicity, religion, geopolitical location, and economic status primarily determine a child's risk of recruitment, how they are exploited, and how the violations they experience. 3,985 children were abducted. The situations with the higher number of child abductions occurred in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, Burkina Faso, Myanmar, and Mozambique. 1,166 children were victims of sexual violence. Sexual violence in conflict is the most underreported grave violation for both girls and boys due to stigma and lack of legal protection. 99% of sexual violence was perpetrated against girls who are disproportionately affected by sexual violence and forced marriage. Boys are also victims of sexual violence or experience secondary trauma from becoming forced witness of sexual violence against their family members. 3,931 incidents of denial of humanitarian access. The most affected situations are in Israel and the state of Palestine, Yemen, Afghanistan, Mali, and Burkina Faso. 1,846 incidents in schools and hospitals. With 1,846 incidents verified, the number of attacks on schools and hospitals showed the sharpest increase of all grave violations, with over 110%, a significant rise 60% in the use of schools and hospitals for military purposes for both armed forces and armed groups have been confirmed. Ending and preventing violations against children is central to the mandate on children and armed conflict. The most effective way to protect children from hostilities is to eliminate the push and pull factors that lead to their involvement in armed conflict. In response to rise in grave violations committed against children, the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict launched Act to Protect, a global campaign to generate greater awareness and action to protect children affected by war. During 3 years, the campaign will seek to prevent grave violations committed against children in times of conflict. From Sierra Leone to Colombia, Somalia, and Afghanistan, every year, conflict affects the lives of tens of thousands of boys and girls. They are forced to join army and armed movement, abducted, used, and abused, fueling wars that they have not created. They are Yenni, Kaba, they are Khalid and Muhammad, and many such stories which can be heard from the field. We'll look at few of these through short videos. So when we look at the background, on 19th August 1982, at its emergency special session on the question of Palestine, the General Assembly appealed to the great number of innocent Palestinians and Lebanese children victims of Israel's acts of aggression, decided to commemorate 4 June of each year as the International Day of Innocent Children's Victims of Aggression. The purpose of this day is to acknowledge the plans suffered by children throughout the world who are victims of physical, mental, and emotional abuse. This affirms the UN's commitment to protect the rights of the children. Its work is guided by the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the most rapidly and widely ratified international human rights treaty in history. The Graham-Mackel reports and General Assembly Resolution 51/77, a groundbreaking study on the impact of armed conflict on children, while A51/306, prepared by Ms. Gracia Mackel, expert of this Secretary General appointed in 1994, concludes, we want a society where people are more important than things, where children are precious, a world where people can be more human, caring, and gentle. The Gracia reports drew global attention to the devastating impact of armed conflict on children. And in 1997, the General Assembly adopted 51/77 resolution on the rights of the child. It was a landmark development in efforts to improve the protection of child in conflict situations. This signed that start of a new consensus among member states on the need for dedicated attention, advocacy, and coordinated effort by the international community to address the vulnerabilities and violations faced by children in conflict-related situations. Resolution 51/77 built on existing General Assembly efforts to preserve the rights of children, including through the Convention on the Rights of the Child and its optional protocol and the annual rights of the child resolutions. And it established the mandate of Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict. Sustainable development, securing a better future for children. More needs to be done to protect millions of children living in countries and areas affected by conflict. More must be done to protect children from targeting by violent extremists, to promote international humanitarian and human rights laws, to ensure accountability for violations of the rights of children. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development provides us with a universal master plan to secure a better future for children. The new agenda includes, for the first time, a specific target, 16.2, to end all forms of violence against children and ending the abuse, neglect, the exploitation of children, and is mainstream across several other violence targets. So let's watch few videos. Give me a second so that I can load videos for you.
25 years ago, I had the privilege to work with a team of international experts to prepare a comprehensive study focused on the promotion and protection of the rights of children affected by armed conflict, specifically the impact of war on them. As we embarked on this research, we traveled around the world from Angola, Rwanda, and Sierra Leone on my native African continent to Europe, from Northern Ireland to the former Yugoslavia, and across other regions from Cambodia to Colombia and to Lebanon. In every country we visited, we spoke to many stakeholders, government officials, civil society organizations, community leaders, and children and their families. All these meetings provided insights and perspectives, but meeting with children and the families educated me most by showing me the devastating impact that wars have on children. 25 years ago, children were not just caught up in conflicts, but were used to fight adults' wars. All of them were victims of violence and the multiple deprivations that wars cause, such as hunger, disease, and poverty. For today's children who are impacted by war, it is no different. UNICEF's report confirms that every year the number of verified violations continues to increase, and since 2012, it has been over 20,000 per year. My work on this report was a life-changing experience. It left me dismayed, distressed, and with a desire to tell everyone what was happening, what humanity was doing to its children, and wanting everyone to listen. The world did listen. The world also took action. The international community and the United Nations created tools to better understand how armed conflicts affect children. We now collect information more systematically, and we have a space in which the experiences of children affected by war can be seen, heard, and addressed. We now can see the trends clearly. We know that since 2005, at least more than 104,000 children were killed and injured. Over 14,000 children experienced sexual violence, and that at least 93,000 have been recruited by armed actors. We have access to regular updates telling us that at least 13,900 schools or hospitals have been destroyed, looted, and which educational and medical facilities are occupied and used for other purposes than learning and healing. Each of these numbers represents a tragedy for a child and a family. And when the world knows about this tragedy, it is much harder to avert our eyes. Informed by children's experiences, we can hold accountable the warring parties that are violating children's rights. We can invite them to the table. We can demand that they take measures to spare children from the impact of war. The evidence must compel us to respond, to provide care and protection services to children who have experienced war. No matter who they are or where they are, our response must be tailored to their needs, adapted to their age, gender, and to their specific situation. Still, the work we started 25 years ago is not concluded, and in many ways, it has become more complex. We have so much to do together to protect the children from war. We have the tools to collect information and the actions we have taken together. What remains is for us to recommit our political and moral will. Children are children, first of all. As adults, it is our duty to protect them and to create a better, more peaceful world where every one of their rights is protected and fulfilled. Anything else is unacceptable.
Children must be protected everywhere and in all circumstances. Keeping all children safe from harm and promoting their well-being is and must be everybody's business.
Displaced children on the move are children first and foremost. All actions related to displaced children must be guided by the Convention on the Rights of the Child and its 4 guiding principles: the right to survival and development, the best interests of the child, the right to participation and inclusion, non-discrimination and equity in the treatment of all children who need protection, regardless of their status.
Children on the move and their best interests must be at the center of our efforts. Children must never be detained on the basis of the migration status of their parents, as this is never in their best interest.
It is essential to engage children and young people on the move safely and ethically as key actors and partners in shaping the response.
Like all children, but particularly those that are living in a condition of displacement, they need safety and security. And as part of that, they need to be included without discrimination in all public services, ranging from documentation, especially documentation at birth, and services such as health, education, and social protection.
Places where children live, play, learn, or access services must be safe havens and should never be used or targeted by any parties in conflict. In cross-border displacement, as in other situations, all decisions must be made in line with the principle of the best interest of the child. There must be full compliance, when relevant, with international humanitarian law, including applicable procedures and regulations in the context of evacuation of children. We are accountable to children in all our responses.
Children on the move are also more vulnerable when approaching public authorities and seeking recourse to justice.
Ensure that countries of origin, transit, and destination have regular communication and share information about children in transit in a uniform and coordinated manner. Strengthen existing child protection systems and improve the coordination between these child protection systems and anti-trafficking stakeholders within countries and across borders. Ensure effective investigations and accountability for trafficking in persons in conflict situations. To effectively combat and prevent human trafficking, the demand that incentivizes human trafficking must be addressed.
Let's be united in creating a world free from violence against children.
Information for adults looking after a child or children through conflict and displacement. About you, what might you be experiencing? You may become more irritable than usual, and your mood may change back and forth dramatically. You may be especially anxious or nervous or depressed. You may have repeated and vivid memories of your experiences. These flashbacks may lead to physical reactions such as rapid heartbeat or sweating. You may find it difficult to concentrate or make decisions, or become more easily confused. Your sleep and eating patterns may also be disrupted. All of these things can affect how you get on with your child or children you are looking after. What can you do to help yourself? Recognize that this is a challenging time, but one that you can work to manage. You have tackled other hardships at other times in your life. Recognize that you are a unique person. Use the skills and resources that you have. Allow yourself and your children to mourn any losses you may have experienced. Try to be patient with changes in how you are feeling. Try and keep hopeful and a positive outlook. This will help your children have hope for the future. Support each other and take help from friends, relatives, community, and religious leaders. Look after yourself as much as possible and try to rest when you can. As much as you can, try to establish or re-establish routines such as regular bedtimes. Try to keep yourself occupied with regular chores or with work or activities with others around you. Maintain any religious activities you do. About your child. What might your child be experiencing? How children react to stressful experiences can vary depending on a number of things. For example, their age, but here are some common ways that children may react. Physical complaints such as headache, stomachache, lack of appetite, being fearful and anxious, difficulty sleeping, nightmares, night terrors, shouting or screaming. Older children may go back to bedwetting, clinging to their parents, frequent crying, thumb-sucking, being afraid to be left alone. Becoming unusually active or aggressive, or the opposite, shy, quiet, withdrawn and sad. Difficulty concentrating. It's important to remember that it is common for children to show stress reactions or problem behaviors after frightening and stressful experiences. What can you do to help your child? Firstly, safety. Strive to keep your family together at all times. Try hard not to be separated from your children for long periods of time. Ensure your children know their name and where you are staying and how to get help if they are separated from you. If you are going to a distribution site, either keep your children close by at all times or leave them in the care of a responsible and trusted relative or adult. If your children do go along with you, arrange in advance somewhere you can meet if you become separated. Ensure this is somewhere the child will know and feel comfortable. If it's safe for your children to go out to play, tell them to let you know where they are going and when they will be back. Secondly, providing warmth and support. Promise you will do everything you can to care for and protect them. Try to be affectionate with your children by often giving them hugs or holding their hand. Try to tell them often that you love them. Being caring and telling your children that you love them will reassure them. Number 3, giving praise. Look for opportunities to praise your child when they have done something good, however small it may seem. Try to be patient with your child and not to criticize them for changes in their behavior, such as clinging to you or frequently seeking reassurance. Encourage your child to help and praise and thank them when they do. Children cope better and recover sooner when they help others. Number 4, spending time together and talking. Pay attention to your child. Spend a few moments with them whenever you can. Take time to listen to them and try to understand what they have experienced. Ask how they feel about their experiences and which experiences are most stressful and difficult to adjust to. Do not promise your children things you cannot provide. Be open and try to give children accurate information about what is happening. Number 5, encouraging play. Encourage your child to play with you, their siblings, or other children. Play is important in helping children work through past and current stress and experiences and to prepare them for the future. It helps maintain some normality in their lives. Number 6, maintaining a routine. Try to maintain everyday routines, such as bedtimes, as much as you can. Encourage children to do schoolwork, like reading, maths, and writing, even if there are no schools. This leaflet was initially developed in 2014 by Ala Elkani, Rachel Calum, and Kim Cartwright at the University of Manchester, UK, through discussions with Syrian refugee caregivers living in conflict zones and in camps, and in Manchester, April 2022.
In times of conflict, UNICEF stands by its mandate to act and advocate for the protection, the safety and rights of all children, no matter where they are. Crucially, this means doing everything we can to provide vulnerable children with clean water, with nutrition, with healthcare and with education by engaging local partners, communities and authorities, whoever they are. Our role isn't to take sides. Under international humanitarian law, parties to a conflict are obliged to protect all children from harm. It's never acceptable to use children as hostages or put them at risk of being casualties of war. Aid delivery during an ongoing conflict is always dangerous. Without safe access, unarmed humanitarian workers struggle to reach children and their families. Yet UNICEF's unwavering commitment is to stay and deliver. While humanitarian workers can't end wars, we do everything in our power to protect and support children. We advocate at every level, using the most effective channels we have to call for the protection of children and their rights, to demand unimpeded humanitarian access, to speak out on the urgent needs of children, and call for an end to conflicts where children's rights are being violated. Let's stand together and never give up for children who are devastated by conflict. For every child, peace.
The Rocky Mountains and the fantastic views, have all dimmed because of the dark fog. All the chase and the memories we saw have worn out like a piece of luck. In this world filled with chaos and strife, let's come together and change our lives. With love and kindness as our guide, peace will bloom and hearts will collide. Let's embrace diversity. Let differences unite. For in unity, we find strength and light. Together, we can build a world so grand, where peace and harmony forever stand. Spread compassion, let empathy flow, and watch as peace begins to grow. In every action, big or small, let peace be our guiding call. May peace prevail in every land. Hand in hand, let's make a stand. With hope in our hearts, we will find a way to create a peaceful world starting today.
Cool, ready. Thank you so much. I just really wanted to say a good evening to everybody in New York. It's with real sadness I cannot be there in person to mark 25 years of the Children in Armed Conflict mandate with the Office of the Special Representative, the Secretary General of the UN. I'm packing for onward travel again, this time to a long list of hotspots across the Middle East for the next 2 months, and so I really, really apologise. I would like to extend my thanks to the incredible members of the Children in Armed Conflict team for their support over the years, as well as colleagues and friends within the various humanitarian arms of the state of Qatar I have had the privilege of collaborating with, notably Qatar Fund for Development, Education Above All, and Qatar Charity. I thank them all from the bottom of my heart for their unwavering support to those who desperately need it around the world. Photography, as a medium, can convey and in extremely powerful ways, stories of those affected by crisis, by conflict. It is the bridge, for me at least, of where art meets reality, which translates as really the bridge between hope and despair. It's almost like a spiritual, ethereal connection that we seek, usually at the most troubled times of our lives. And this is shown no better, for me, than when light pierces through the darkness. Photographs can embody the same character traits of the great painters like Rembrandt or Caravaggio, who embraced the use of chiaroscuro, which for me is how I often see those really challenging moments where words simply won't do. Perhaps it's a subtle look to the floor in defeat, or that look up to the light, which I always refer to as God's light, for salvation. During conflict, the sounds and screams of people fleeing for their lives, which are captured frame after frame after frame by photographers, whilst it's incredibly important to do and to document, I almost feel at times it's a total invasion of someone's privacy in their bleakest, darkest hour. However, their expressed invitation into that sanctuary to sit with them and share their deepest, darkest moments on their terms is the greatest privilege imaginable. It really is. When I think back over a decade, and perhaps 60 countries later, I often try to think about those emblematic moments with those incredible children I met in the field. And whilst it's great to be able to do that, it is one of the deepest, darkest headspaces to be able to voluntarily crawl into. Was it the young Syrian refugee, Abdul? He was 10 years old, I remember it so clearly, and he was sat around an unlit stove in their shelter on the edge of a refugee camp in Lebanon. And I remember his parents talking to me and explaining that he was overdue a life-saving operation to his heart that they just couldn't afford. And as I turned to Abdul, I remember it because he began to cry and the tears rolled down his cheeks. And it was the haunting stare of a boy who knew he was going to die. And had Abdul really escaped conflict in Syria only to die in a tent in Lebanon? Is that what was happening? He was let down by the promises of the world to better protect children in conflict. Or was it perhaps after the rains on the Uganda-DRC borders? I remember kneeling down in the mud taking photographs of children in the field, and this young Congolese refugee who had lost her entire family in the conflict still had the space in her heart to bring me a cloth and started to wipe the mud stains away from my jeans. It's incredible. Moments like these are memorable for different reasons. Personally, to see the hope through all the darkness, I find challenging. I wish I was more optimistic. Certainly being celebrated for addressing the suffering of humanity, a result of the evil of mankind, does not sit well with me. And my work has never been about me. It never has been, and it never will be. This work that's hung on the walls here, around you, is simply to remind us of the voiceless. I really hope we use this moment to reflect on those milestones that we've reached and those we have not. And the sad truth is, evil will always exist, and it's always going to continue to prey on the most vulnerable, and in this case, children. More than a decade ago, I started this journey devoted to telling stories of the most marginalized people across the world. I could never have imagined to be able to show you my work in such an iconic setting, iconic venue as the United Nations Secretariat building. It's steeped in history, and it is a building that is so symbolic for changing the course of nations and the lives of its people. A building that essentially brings hope. I often think, how do I feel today? Such a milestone in a career to be able to reach, to exhibit to all of you people. Do I feel proud? Not so much. Do I feel saddened by the state of humanity? Definitely, most definitely. Or do I feel defeated and tired? You know what, to my shame, I do. However, when we look at the work of the Children in Armed Conflict Mandate and the protection of children across the world in conflict in general, so much has been achieved. And this brings me those glimmers of hope. But we must not rest on our laurels. We must not congratulate each other, because there is so much more to do. What I would like all visitors to take away from this exhibit is a reminder that it is our collective responsibility to do everything in our power to protect children. And this includes those that live in our shadows and those that we're never going to meet in the far-flung corners of the world. I honestly feel if we falter now, what will we tell the children in the future when they ask us, what did we do to help? What role did we play? What are we going to tell them? And on that note, I wish you all a good evening, and I beg of you, please continue to put your best foot forward and support the Children in Armed Conflict mandate at the United Nations for another 25 years and beyond. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Now you might have seen how in various ways children, especially in the arms of conflict and wars, have been facing through various atrocities. And it happens on June 4th every year. This day is celebrated to acknowledge the pain suffered by children throughout the world who are victims of physical, mental, and emotional abuse. It is also an incentive to recommit an international community to the goal of ending all forms of violence against children. Initially, prompted by the struggles of Palestinian and Lebanese children victims of 1982 Lebanon war, the resolution that birthed this day nonetheless seeks to end aggression and protect children's rights in every other conflict-ridden region of the world. The war that led to the enhancement of the Convention on Child Rights and ultimately funding of the International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression started in June 1982, when Israel Defense Forces invaded southern Lebanon following an assassination attempt on its ambassadors from within the country. The adoption of the day came shortly afterward at an emergency meeting of the United Nations General Assembly on August 19, 1982, which was called out of fear for the growing number of civilian casualties, including children. Members were appalled by the great number of innocent Palestinian and Lebanese children victims of Israel acts of aggression. The 4-month war led the United Nations General Assembly to enact and adopt a resolution on the rights of the child in 1997. It was an event that was considered a landmark development in the effort to improve the protection of children in conflict situations when it became most widely ratified international human rights treaty in history. In recent years, following reports from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, in short known as UNODC, the organization's tasked with initiatives to end violence against children. The number of violations of the United Nations conventions on child rights has increased in many conflict-riddled regions of the world, making the purpose and the observations of the holiday even more important. Given that violence often causes long-lasting physical and mental harm that follows into adulthood and stunts a child development, the UNODC estimated that the world loses trillions a year to after effects of violence against children globally. The United Nations, through the UNODC, has several initiatives like Global Program to End Violence Against Children, which supports and assists its member states. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development states how to effectively prevent and respond to violence against children and lays out a master plan to secure a better future for children. Since violence against children can be physical and psychological, paying special attention and actively listening to a child talk without playing down their emotions can help uncover abuse. It also builds a relationship of trust and maintains a positive interaction with them. Another way to observe International Day of Innocent Children victims of aggression is to spread awareness on, like these various events are organized. So attend them, participate in them, present in them, help others to see the importance of this day by listing some statistics about the graveness of violence against children. According to the UN reports, 246 million worldwide are affected by school-related violence each year, as schools are considered easy targets. Millions of children are affected. Approximately 28.5 million primary school-age children who are out of school live in conflict-affected regions. Every 7 minutes, somewhere in the world, a child is killed by an act of violence. According to a UN report, violence against children affects more than 1 million around the world and costs countries a combined $7 billion a year. 50% of the world's children experience violence every year. Half of the world's children experience violence. The one thing the United Nations wants to achieve through International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression is total eradication of violence and aggression that causes the death of millions of children around the world annually. It is listed as one of the Sustainable Development Goals to be achieved before 2030. Therefore, this day is important to serve as a way for us to commit to ending all forms of violence and against children and ending the abuse, neglect, and exploitation of children that cause the needless loss of lives in the world. Let's elevate our shared humanity of what importance is neglecting to act on pressing issue of aggression towards children. If anything, and like the UN said in its reports, neglecting does more harm than good. International Day of Innocent Children Victims of Aggression serves as a day to reflect and decide whether to commit to helping codify what's wrong and right in the treatment of children around the world. Observing International Day of Innocent Children's Victims of Aggression is important to set a good precedent. Moreover, it serves as a day to garner humanity's outrage and disdain towards violence against children to deter criminal organizations from involving them in wars. Today is also commemorated as International Corgi Day. The Corgi is a dog breed with short legs, a long body, and a huge heart. These dogs' roots can be traced to Wales, where they were bred to herd larger numbers animals. The combination of their short height and agility made them the top contenders for herding animals. Corgis are also known as a dwarf dog. The main aim of International Corgi Dog Day is to bring love and attention to this lovable dog breed. A focus is also put on rescuing and rehoming corgis that have been abandoned by their owners. The first International Corgi Day was celebrated by Ohama Corgi Crew. The soon-to-be non-profit organization was established in December 2011. It started out as a passion project of a group of 4 friends who wanted to bring more attention to corgis. Today, the organization advocates for the rescue and adoption of corgis, since it believes that all doggos are great companions. The Ohama Corgi Crew also takes part in funding drivers, not just corgis, but other dogs too. The history of corgis can be traced back to around 12th century, when Flemish weavers traveled to Wales to reside there. The Pembroke Welsh Corgi is most associated with the beavers because it is due to them that there was an increase in population of this particular Corgi breed. The Cardigan Welsh Corgi is another common Corgi breed, but it is heavier and bigger than the Pembroke breed. The Cardigan breed is also associated with no settlers. Either way, both breeds of the Welsh Corgis were used as herding dogs. They were known as healers because of their short stature and quick agility that allowed them to easily maneuver between large groups of bigger animals. Corgis would nip at the heels of their herding animals to make them move faster. The dogs are also known as dwarf dog or the cur dog, with the latter name coming from the Nordic word hurra, meaning to growl. There are also some interesting lore based on corgis. One such ancient story suggests that corgis come to humans when two human children stumble upon a fairy funeral in the woods. The mourning fairies gave two corgi puppies to the children. The line of rougher fur at the base of corgis' haunches are the saddle lines when the fairies use them as war horses. A corgi can cost you anywhere between $600 to $1,000, depending on the breed's quality and the breeder's location. Generally, Cardigan Welsh corgis cost more than Pembroke corgis because of the former's rarity. Corgis cannot be left alone all day by themselves because they are herding breed. They are used to having people and other animals around them. So at least you need to have other animals or animal with it. In rare cases, some you can also train, but it's not advisable. So show some love to corgis, which were mainly used as herding dogs, with love and attention. Take part in the fundraising drives for them, adaptation drives, and rescue efforts of smaller organizations. So lend a helping hand by spreading awareness. And also organize a corgi event like this online to use and share information on corgi and gather family and friends together to celebrate the tiny creatures. Spreading the corgi content. Dogs has great sense of smell. Dogs can be trained to detect medical problems in people through smell, going as far as checking their blood sugar levels. The greyhound dog breed can reach and maintain a speed of 45 miles per hour, whereas a cheetah can reach a speed of 70 miles per hour, but only maintain it for 30 seconds. Greyhounds can outrun cheetahs. Curling up to protect their organs, many dogs curl up when they sleep to protect their organs, a residual instinct from their ancestors living in the wild. If you want to bring your blood pressure down, pet a dog and give it some love. Dogs are good for blood pressure. No two dogs have the same nose prints, as they are unique to each of them, just like fingerprints. No dog nose have unique prints. Corgis are an amazing dog breed. They may be vertically challenged, but that does not stop from being the center of attention. wherever they go. Most corgis have an extremely friendly nature and will befriend you immediately. International Corgi Day celebrates other dogs too. Undying loyalty and unconditional love has become synonymous with dogs, and quite right. One of the main goals of this day to help dogs of all kinds to find a loving home and family, and the Oma Corgi crew ensures just that. The unique bond that humans share with animals is unparalleled. Apart from being great life companions, animals more often than not show us what it means to love unconditionally. This special bond forms a familial relationship that stays for decades to come. This week is also commemorated as Philippine Eagle Week in Philippines from June 4th to 10th, 2024 this year. And every year, it is a week dedicated to celebrating one of the special creatures in this world, the Philippine eagle. It is also known as monkey-eating eagle and is critically endangered species. It can be found in the forest in the Philippines. The forests of the Philippines. It has brown and white colored plumage, a shaggy chest, measures between 2.82 to 3.35 feet in length, and weighs about 8.98 to 17.6 pounds. As this species is rare and endangered, it is important to set measures to preserve them and educate the public about them, so we can have more generations of these special birds. The Philippine eagle was first studied in 1896 by English explorer and naturalist John Whitehead. He observed that bird alongside his servant and collected the first specimen. He then sent the skin of the bird to William Robert Oglethorpe Grange in London. That same year, Robert showed it off in a local restaurant. After its discovery, the Philippine eagle was called the monkey-eating eagle, as there were reports from the natives of Samar and Bonga, the eagle's place of discovery, that it preyed exclusively on monkeys. It gave rise to Philippines eagle's generic name, which stems from the Greek word. So it gave rise to the Philippines eagle's generic name, which stems from the Greek word pithecus, meaning ape or monkey, and phagus, meaning eater of. So thus eater of ape or monkey. The species name is derived from Geoffrey Whitehead, the father of John Whitehead. After some time, studies began to reveal that the monkey-eating eagle ate other animals like large snakes, monitor lizards, and some large birds. The name of Philippine eagle was officially given to the animal by presidential proclamation in 1978, and it was declared a national emblem in 1995. In terms of length and wing surface, the Philippine eagle is considered the largest of the extant eagle species. In terms of length and wing surface, the Philippine eagle is considered the largest of the extant eagle species. The happy eagle and the stellar sea eagle are larger in terms of bulk and weight. The Philippine eagle is now endangered due to hunting and loss of its habitat due to deforestation. To combat this, the Philippines government banned the killing of Philippine eagle, and it is punishable by 12 years imprisonment and heavy fines. Not just the Philippines, but the world at large should join together to preserve Philippine eagle for future generations. There are less than 400 breeding pairs left. The significance of Philippine eagle is it represents the bravery and strength of Filipino people. Most of them can carry anything from 5 to 6 pounds from flat ground. So advocate against deforestation, not just during the week, but throughout the year. It affects the animal in their local environment as they become displaced, when they lose their habitat. Advocate against deforestation, not just during this week, but throughout the year. It affects the animal in local environment as they become displaced, when they lose their habitats. And celebrate this day by spreading awareness. Lots of people, especially those living outside the Philippines, don't know about this week, so it presents a good opportunity to introduce them to the Philippine eagle. That's why we are commemorating so many commemorations and celebrations to create awareness so that many people know about it. The Philippine eagle has a long lifespan, as it can live up to 60 years. It has a long lifespan. The females of the species is usually bigger than the males. Philippine eagle have a loud and high-pitched noise to show their fierceness and territorial nature. Philippine eagles can see about 8 times farther than humans. The Philippine eagle sticks with one partner all its life, and they are monogamous. As the Philippine eagle is an endangered species, celebrating the week draws us closer to finding ways to ensure their survival. This is a positive development for a truly magnificent animal. Not everyone knows about the Philippine eagle, so this week brings more eyes on them. People get to find out more about them during this week. This week discourages uncontrolled deforestation, which is let's watch a short video.
It's not always easy for kids to manage how much time they're spending on screens, especially when they're engaged with social media or video games, as these are engineered to make it very hard for teens to pull away. I'm Dr. Lisa Damore, psychologist, author, and mom. Here are 3 things adults can do to help teens find a healthy balance on how much time they spend on digital devices. Number 1, be curious about how your teen feels about technology. Teens rely on screens for all sorts of things, from watching documentaries, to learning from how-to videos, to interacting with their friends. Conversations with teens about how they use their devices are almost always more successful when we start from a place of curiosity. Find out what your teen enjoys about using tech and what they don't like so much. Ask them to reflect on how different digital activities make them feel. Doing so will bring you and your teen closer and help you talk together about setting limits that will help your teen to have the best possible experience. 2, don't let time spent on screens replace other activities. Rather than being against your teen using screens, be for your teen engaging in activities that support healthy development. Teens who are spending plenty of time focused on their schoolwork, enjoying in-person interactions, helping out around the house or the community, and being physically active tend to have the healthiest, most balanced relationships with screens. 3, model healthy screen use. Teens pay attention to what adults do at least as much as they listen to what we say. Adopting healthy screen use habits for yourself will help your teen to do the same, and it will make it easier for you to enforce your screen time rules. For example, you can say to your teen, "I don't keep technology in my room overnight because it gets in the way of sleep, which is important for my physical health and my mental health. Having the same rule for you as I do for myself is an important part of how I take care of you." Here's to you, your teenager, and to healthy screen use.
is one of the world's largest and rarest birds of prey. A critically endangered species, fewer than 900 adults remain on just 4 Philippine islands. A top predator of the forest, the eagle's hunting range can cover up to 40 square miles. But much of the Philippine forests have disappeared since the 1600s. Due to logging and human encroachment, less than 25% of historical forest remains. Conservation groups like the Philippine Eagle Foundation are studying the eagle's behaviors in an effort to save the species. It took 4 weeks of searching, 7 filming platforms, and 5 months to capture this rare, intimate look at a Philippine eagle nest. Within the rainforest canopy, this young eaglet is beginning its life under the watchful care of its parents. Philippine eagle pairs mate for life and produce just 1 egg every 2 years. Both parents work together to raise the chick, sharing the hunting and feeding duties. The parents deliver meals of snakes, birds, and mammals, such as flying lemurs, several times per week. At around 6 weeks old, the eaglet is learning new skills. By about 2 months old, its soft down is replaced with feathers. And soon, it develops its iconic mane-like crest. Now 15 weeks old, the eaglet stretches and flaps its wings, practicing for its first flight. Eaglets fledge or first leave the nest around 5 months of age. But the parents continue providing for the young for another 18 months. The juvenile takes bigger and bigger leaps near the nest as it learns to fly. But not without some tumbles. Philippine eagles often reuse their nest sites each mating season, making deforestation in nesting areas a threat to the species' survival. Community-based efforts to protect nesting sites and enforce poaching laws are showing some promising results. While the Philippine eagle remains critically endangered, each successful fledgling brings new possibility.
So with this, we here take a break and invite any presentations from the participants or any feedback on the sessions or presentation. Feel free to share in chat box. Tomorrow we are celebrating World Environment Day. So we will have wonderful presentations tomorrow. We invite you also to come up with various presentations related to this day. It will help us to share information and also in active learning. So so here we shall conclude these sessions for the day. And we thank each and everyone and express our gratitude to each and everyone for joining us. Before leaving, we request everyone to quickly fill up the feedback form, which has been raised in the form of polls. See you all tomorrow at the same time, 6 o'clock, the same joining link for the World Environment Day celebrations. Take care. Good night.